Hey, it's me, girlfriend, boyfriend's favorite content creator. Oh, also your they friends. Cannot forget the they friends. They are also valid. And I saw something online today, which is kind of how this goes, right? I see something and talk about it. Well, this one really caught my eye because it was from an Endymion post. And I guess a little backstory. If you guys watched my other video, which a lot of you guys did, thank you, talking about the people being extremely racist, right? Endymion responded to Abu about what was happening, right? With Smash JT and those guys being super racist. And he was coming at it like, oh, I agree with some of the points, like, like the culture was gone too far. So he broke off the deep end. But then he starts talking about, the DEI of it all and yada, 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 yada. And that's not what I really want to talk about. There was a response to him that was talking about how it's essentially funny how he's talking like this, how DEI and these consultant agencies like Sweet Baby Inc. are the problem, when he himself has played their games and 100%ed them. And I don't mean like that figuratively. I mean, he's 100%ed God of War Ragnarok, God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. He's 100%ed Forspoken. Like he's 100%ed these games. And his response has been, oh, well, I 100% these games, so when I review them, I have a level of authority. And you know what? That's valid. There are reviewers out there. One that springs to mind is Mortissimo Gaming, who only does reviews after 100%ing it, so I understand that. But then I was curious as to what his Forspoken review was about. So I watched it. And it's not terrible by any stretch of the means. All right, I'm not someone who's so biased that I can't admit something that's like, okay, I do think some of his analysis was off, but for the most part, pretty harmless, innocuous video. But there's nothing in that video that would have required you to have played 100% of a game that, again, is a Sweet Baby Inc. ass game, right? It is super woke. The dialogue's pretty cringy, like everything that people say they hate. And yet the video that he made was in staunch support of it. And I'm not kidding. I will obviously be playing you guys clips of it, but he is supporting Forspoken, a game that all of the grifters fucking hate. Even the non-grifters don't like, right?
Worlds I've played outside of maybe Insomniac's Spider-Man, they all feel very ground level. And while this is not a bad thing, that emphasis on verticality does help Forspoken in differing itself by allowing you to glide up mountains and jump across cool landscapes with crazy speed. It's really cool. I'm also digging the magical combat, which is understandably very flashy. It's fun to blast enemies and see them fly around like ragdolls, and there's a surprising level of depth to the amount of spells, even from the get-go. There's also activities I'm enjoying more than I thought I would, like the labyrinths. They're simple, they're just rooms of enemies you kill and then progress through, but I enjoy them because they're full of loot and they have big enemies to kill at their climax. That activity in particular, it gave me Diablo vibes, and I enjoyed clearing these out to see what new gear I could find. And while the game doesn't necessarily revolutionize the open world genre like Elden Ring did, I can't deny that I'm having fun.
Everyone's saying again how bad the dialogue is. It's so cringy, it's so bad, it's so cringy. It's too much Marvel, it's too much like the MCU. It's cringy. Cringy was kind of like the running theme for that. And he defends it.
Then, of course, there's the other big thing the internet is clowning on, which is the dialogue, and honestly, it's not that bad. At times it's not great, like that one infamous clip going around. There's also some other clips that kind of work, if I'm being honest, like this clip here.
Such righteous boys, yet all is demon-sullied noise.
Shit, alright, if you're gonna rhyme everything, then just kill me now.
And he says something in the video along the lines of, had you played the game within the context, like out of context, everything sounds bad. But if you understand the game, play the game within its context, then it doesn't seem as bad. And he uses an example where there's a character who was living in the break for 20 years. And so the way he communicates is like whoosh. And living in a break basically makes your brain go to fucking mush. And so they're communicating like very simple, one-word phrases, but they're communicating a greater idea. And I watched this video and I was just like, again, I don't agree with the entirety of the video. I do think his analysis on the Kotaku article specifically is kind of incorrect, though he does mention that he hates the fact that they feel like they're pushing an agenda. I find that ironic, but he is conflating that they're saying that it's wrong that Freya wasn't basically treated like a black woman in Althea, because in Althea that wouldn't really matter. And I'm like, that's true, but they were obviously talking about how the game sort of felt like it was going to set up the fact that she is a black woman from New York and grew up in our society, so like her perception of like a little black girl might be different, right? And her being dead in her arms would be different. And then later on, they play that as like a quip by calling the person who kills her the kitty killer herself, right?
The reviewer Grayson Morley went on to say in their review, quote, "Before I wrap up, let's spare a word for Frey, a notionally black protagonist who joins a growing trend in media of putting black people in worlds where race is inconsequential. Except the game is very insistent that Frey is a New Yorker, mysterious birth or no, spending her entire life up until this point, growing up in our decidedly non-fantasy world, where blackness is not a non-factor. Regrettably, Frey's identity is thinly written and awkwardly deployed, as the story leans not only on stereotypical narratives but trauma as a plot device. An early plot point involves Frey holding the lifeless body of an Athian black girl with whom she has bonded, an image that, in the raceless world of Athia, doesn't carry the same weight it does in ours and Frey's. Initially, Frey is spurred to action, vowing revenge for the child's death, which led me to believe, optimistically, that the game was thinking about Frey's identity as more than just the sum of its repeated insistence of her love of kicks and the one time she says okay bet. Unfortunately, like everything in Forspoken, the death is quickly relegated to quip fodder, as Frey jokingly calls the child's murderer the kitty killer herself. Which brings us back to square one, a two-dimensional foster kid with a rap sheet who swears so often you'd think she was paid by the mother effer herself, end quote. So according to Polygon, Forspoken gets docked review points because the main character is black and no one in the game hates her or oppresses her because of it. Apparently, if you have a black character in your game, it means they have to fight racism always. Otherwise, why have a black character in the first place?
But besides that, I didn't have, like I said, much issue with it. But I just started wondering, like, what happened? How did we go from, I would say, considering the source, a fairly nuanced take on a topic that during the time would have been much easier to just rail on and get the views, to where we are now, where almost every video is just shit talking, just blaming DEI, ESG, and all these things. Like, again, there were definitely little seeds of it in this video, but nothing offensively there. But now, all of the content is just that. This was him a year ago. 100%ing a game he didn't have to 100%. Why? Because he obviously enjoyed the game. I'm sorry. Like I said, unless you're Mortisimal Gaming, you're not 100%ing a game you hate. And even then, I don't think he's 100% the game that he hated. Maybe wasn't a big fan of, but not hated. You're not completing the side quests for games you hate. You could play the main story and get enough of it. You want to talk about, and the post he made talk about, oh, this is Alan Wake 2, God of War, Ragnarok and stuff were games people had played before they knew about Sweet Baby Inc. And I'm like, that still doesn't help your point, because you enjoyed those games. You 100% of God of War Ragnarok and God of War Valhalla. And last I checked, you didn't review either of those games. Okay, yeah, it's me. So he did in fact review God of War. I must have missed it in my first search. But again, not really a review that requires 100%. He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't really review these games. He kind of just talks about it, which is fine. I do not agree with the video of God of War at all, but like, you can have just opinions. It's not a crime to have that. But again, it's not an actual review of the game, right? It's just like things I didn't like, and then comparing it to Elden Ring, which is not fair because it's a different genre. But again, you're allowed to do that. But also, again, none of what he says in that video, and I would recommend, go watch it for yourself. Nothing he says in that video requires you to 100% of God of War Ragnarok and then Valhalla, which is especially strange because he was talking about how much he didn't enjoy like a lot of aspects of God of War, but then goes back to playing the DLC. It's kind of weird. But again, he must have enjoyed it if he 100% both of them. Even if he's complaining about it, you can still complain about shit and enjoy it. And I feel like that's what's getting lost here too. They complain, but it's like you obviously enjoyed it. I wouldn't like buy a game, hate it, say it sucks, and then play its DLC. For example, I wasn't a big fan of Atomic Heart, and I think it's still on my channel if you guys want to watch it. So I didn't play the DLC when it came out. I immediately skipped it. But I was wrong. He did, in fact, I guess, not review, but made a video about God of War Ragnarok. The games you 100% and you didn't review. You don't really review games. You might mention things here and there to counterpoint stuff, but you're not reviewing it. So there is no point to 100% it unless you like it. And it's okay to like it. And I think that's the big, like, thing for me. That's the big flag, big red flag, right? Where they will say these games are terrible, they suck, they're woke, they're garbage, but they're 100%ing it. Pivoting slightly, Grums, Mark Kern, the naval guy, the alleged breast milk thief. He is talking about Dragon Age, and he is backtracking, okay? He's backtracking hardcore because the numbers aren't looking in his favor. Everyone who was talking about, oh, it barely made the top 50 of Steam. It's like, depending on the region, like it might be number 1. It's definitely like top 10 now, right? And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Once it releases, it's going to have crazy reception. It's going to sell a lot of copies. So he's tampering it now to just, well, I expected it to do okay, but the divisive part is the art style and the combat, and that might lead to poor sales. Essentially what he's saying is, if it does well, I never said it didn't do well. But if it doesn't do well, it didn't do well because the art style and combat was divisive, right? Or now he's also saying that it won't sell as well as other BioWare things, which is the stark difference from saying it's going to be a flop, like they were saying previously, and how they were framing it as, oh my God, it's too woke, it's too this, it's too that. And I mentioned that because I think, for most of them, I don't think I play the games, but the ones who do play, I think they quite enjoy these games actually. As much as they try to shit on it, they enjoy these games. But they've already planted their flag in the hill. They already declared victory. They're already telling this game's gonna be shit, it sucks, it's woke, it's garbage. Endymion mentions that kind of stuff too, where he says, I play these games, essentially I will suffer through these amazing, critically well-received games for you, right? They give themselves this over sense of importance. They make themselves the main character. Grom's talking about how he knew his day would come. They'd come for me, but I'm doing this. I'm helping. I'm so powerful. They try to pump themselves up so they can be immune to the backlash. But in reality, they know these are good games. They know it. They're 100%ing them. They don't want you to find out. They won't promote that, but they're 100%ing these games. They like these games, but they can't admit it because part of the grift is dishonesty. Just like how, and again, from Endymion a year ago was able to point out the nuance in arguments, they're capable of doing that, but that requires being honest.
In a controversy where there isn't one. No one cares that Frey is black, and I'm sure the people of Athia couldn't care less either, because they have more important things to worry about than identity politics, like whether they're going to starve to death or be reduced to ash by the incoming apocalypse. I just find it hilarious that Grayson Morley and his Polygon editors see black people as nothing but identity political piñatas for them to hit whenever a black person is involved. God, I hate Polygon, but anyways.
And being honest doesn't make them money. It doesn't help them grip. They're telling you, actually, this game's actually pretty good. Even if there's elements I'm not a big fan of, the game's actually good. They can't do that. Because then they won't get the grift money. It won't get you guys angry enough. And it's so apparent to see if you just watch the older stuff. I mean, again, this is Endymion from a year ago. Now look at his content. For Grums, I still probably would say he doesn't really play games, but he doesn't have strong convictions. He hops from game to game to game to game to game. Remember when he was all about Stellar Blade and wanted a petition? and then it was all about Helldivers 2, and then he was all about like fucking, I don't know, Laura Croft, and then he's all about Monster Hunter, and he's all about Sonic. Like, he just hops from controversy to controversy to controversy to controversy because Grums himself doesn't fucking play games. He doesn't. He just doesn't. Maybe because he's too busy not playing games and not working on his own game to play the games. But I would say at the very least, Endymion has proved that he does play these games. But he also does enjoy these games. But he can't admit it. And if you can't admit when you enjoy something, why should anyone listen to your critique? You 100% this game. Again, I cannot stress that enough. You 100% this game for a video that ultimately didn't need you to 100% it at all. At all. Didn't need to do side content, nothing additional. You beat God of War and Ragnarok, the woke game with Angerboda, which literally triggered the DEI detective and a whole wave of this bullshit culture war stuff. And then you double dipped and played the DLC and also 100%ed that for a game you said was bad. You also 100%, I believe it was Alan Wake 2, a game you also have said is bad, a game that has too much wokeness in it. So why 100% it? We know it's not for reviews. You don't review games. So the only logical conclusion is that you enjoy the games. And it's nice to be able to enjoy games, right? I hope you can play games and enjoy it and then tell people I enjoyed this game. But it feels like you guys feel like you're forbidden from enjoying things. You guys don't talk about any games you actually like. I've said this multiple times and I feel like I've not been proven wrong. You guys don't talk about shit that makes you joyful. You clap about people whose games have failed, but you never talk about joyful stuff. And I'm especially upset with Endymion, a disappointed one might say, because you're capable of better stuff, but you rather be this grifter. You rather retweet blatant racism. You'd rather hang around people who are just disgusting racist. And I mean, that says a lot about you as a person. So I hope, maybe I pull an Asmongold and clean up your room or get rid of the mold or whatever you can do. But at one point, you were capable of putting out pretty decent content. And this is from someone who doesn't like you. You were capable of putting out pretty decent content, and now you're settling for this. You're settling for these ugly ass reused thumbnails, harping on Ubisoft, harping on the fact that they took her butt. They want you mad. They hate you. This is ugly. This is bad. This is this. I'm going to make up an inside. I'm going to use that part place as a resource. Honestly, at some point, you were better than this. And I hope you understand that you can always just go back to doing that. I'm obviously admit that you were grifting and lying, but then just start making content you actually like and not pumping out just rage bait all day, every day. Because you, unlike most of the people I would say who are grifters, have demonstrated some modicum of talent. It's not like the video that you did about Forspoken did poorly. It's pretty average compared to your views you're getting now. So I don't know why you decided to switch. Maybe it is just easier just to make up some lies and be mad about it. But why do that? Why build your platform one way and then completely pivot? Obviously, I guess it's the money reason. But from a creative standpoint, this can't be fulfilling, right? This has to be hollow work. There's no joy in what you do. So why do it?